Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mayowa. Today's tutorial is centered on this bold scallop sweetheart neckline design, and to achieve this your sewing has to be really impeccable. You'll see why I said this as we move through the tutorial. Let's get in, guys. First things first, you need to get your basic bodice pattern, and that is mine. That's the front of mine. Then if you look at the design of the blouse, you would see that the dart is not at the waist. We have the dart at the side. So I'm going to be transferring my dart from the waist to the side of my dart. If you watched my last tutorial where I explained in detail what dart manipulation is, you understand what I'm doing. So this is another example also of dart manipulation. And now I'm just going to go back to the hem of my pattern and just blend it slightly so we have a slightly more straighter line down there. So now all I'm doing is to just put a paper underneath that just to fill up the space of my dart, and then I'm just cutting the excess paper out. And now I'm just going to redraw the dart so it's more clearer for you to see. Now the next bit is to draw in a sweetheart neckline. So first I'm going to just draw 6 inches from my shoulders down, and then I'm just going to slant it just a bit. You can see what I've done. Then right at my armhole level, I'll measure maybe 2 inches down, and then from that line I'll just connect both points together, and then we have our sweetheart neckline. Now we need to draw in the scallop design of the neckline, and I don't think you can get it exactly how it was drawn in the picture, so it's best to just follow your own pattern, draw your own pattern, and then just try to do that on your pattern. Honestly, I think this blouse was laser cut because of how the edges look. It looks a bit thin and then doesn't look like there's any bulk there. But if you obviously don't have a laser, you can always do it this way, and you want to sew, you can do it this way. So I'm done drawing in my scallop design, and then I'm just adding my allowance, half inch at the shoulder, half inch at the armhole. Then you begin to add like a 1/4 inch allowance all the way around the scallop neckline, and then I'm just going to cut this out so you can see me following the shape of the scallop neckline design. And that's it, guys. Just look at the shape of the curves of the scallop neckline, and if you cut it with laser, this is what you're also going to have. So I'm just going to place this on my fabric now, and then I'll just cut it out so we can sew and see what this is going to look like. So now I'm just going to cut this out of my fabric, fold your fabric, and then you just begin to cut out like I'm doing. Right, so and then when you're done cutting, you cut the neckline, you follow the shape of the scallop also when you're cutting, and you can see what I'm doing, so all the way around. And then when I'm done, I'm also going to notch the darts so that I know where my darts are. So also you need interfacing because you need to stabilize the neckline, so that's me cutting my interfacing for the blouse. So that is fusible interfacing, by the way, so it's medium, and then I'll just use my iron to iron it onto my fabric. So I'll cut it exactly the way I cut my fabric, and that's that. So you also need to cut a lining also for this, because we use that lining to turn our neckline. Since we don't have a laser, we have to sew, right? So we need to use our lining to turn the neckline. So for me, I don't really think I'm going to cut a full lining. I'm just going to cut like a facing. So, and then I'm going to sew. I'll first sew my darts, and then when I'm done sewing my darts, I'll place my lining over it, and then I'll sew the neckline. So yeah, at the beginning of this video, remember I mentioned that your sewing has to be really impeccable for you to achieve the neckline, because you are not using lasers. So when you're sewing, it's not going to be very easy to be able to turn all the edges of the scallop inside when you're done sewing. So because my own blouse is even now small, it wasn't even really easy for me to turn all of the edges. So it's best to use a laser as was used in the picture. So to be able to turn the edges, you need to notch all around the curves, like notch. You cut like small tiny openings around the neckline, just so that everything stays intact, and when you're turning, it's you're able to turn the neckline sharply inside when you're done. So yeah, this is how mine looks like after sewing. You can see it doesn't look exactly how my pattern looks because I wasn't able to turn in or turn out all of the edges after sewing. So but I'll take what I can get. And that's the end of today's tutorial, guys. If you enjoyed or found this tutorial helpful, hit the subscribe button below your screen, tap the like button also, and I'll see you in my next tutorial. Bye.